Have you ever noticed how some women leave a mark that no amount of beauty can explain? It is not always the most glamorous woman in the room, not always the loudest voice, and not even the one trying the hardest to be noticed. Yet somehow she becomes unforgettable. Why? Because true desire is rarely built on what the eyes see. It is built on what the heart feels. Beneath strength, confidence, and quiet masculinity, many men carry unspoken needs they rarely reveal to the world. They want peace in a chaotic life. They want respect that feels genuine, not performative. They want warmth that feels real, not forced. Most of all, they long for a connection that makes them feel deeply understood without having to explain themselves. And when a woman knows how to create that feeling through her presence, her calm confidence, her softness, and the quiet power of her words, she becomes more than attractive. She becomes memorable. She becomes the kind of presence that lingers in a man's mind during quiet nights, the kind of energy he compares others to without even realizing it, the kind of connection that feels rare in a world full of shallow attention. The truth is, emotional magnetism is a hidden art. It is not about chasing someone, proving your worth, or trying to be everything for everyone. It is about understanding the quiet language of connection, the subtle words that touch the heart, awaken admiration, and build a bond that feels natural, deep, and impossible to fake. When a woman truly understands this, she stops seeking validation and starts stepping into a different kind of power, the power of presence, the power of self-worth, and the power of becoming someone whose energy feels impossible to replace. Stay with me, because what we are about to explore is not just about attraction. It is about the kind of connection that reaches beyond surface feelings, touches something deeper, and changes the way love, desire, and emotional closeness are understood forever. There is something many women never fully realize. In a world that constantly demands more from men, more strength, more success, more control, more resilience, peace becomes one of the rarest and most attractive things they can experience. Every day, many men walk through silent battles they never speak about. Pressure to achieve, pressure to lead, pressure to hide weakness, pressure to always appear strong, even when life feels heavy on their shoulders. The world often teaches men to keep moving, keep producing, keep carrying burdens quietly, and because of that, many of them become exhausted in ways that are invisible. This is why emotional peace becomes unforgettable. When a woman brings calm energy into a man's life, not drama, not confusion, not constant emotional storms, but warmth, steadiness, and quiet confidence, she creates something he instinctively values. Her presence begins to feel like relief. Her voice begins to feel grounding. Her company begins to feel like the one place where he does not have to defend himself, prove himself, or prepare for conflict. That is powerful. And peace does not mean becoming silent, weak, or losing your standards. Real peace comes from emotional maturity. It is the ability to speak with grace instead of reacting in anger. It is knowing how to express feelings without turning every conversation into tension. It is carrying softness without losing strength. It is having a calming presence that says, "With me you can breathe. With me you can simply be yourself." That feeling is deeply magnetic because genuine peace is rare. Most people bring noise into relationships, demons, games, insecurity, chaos, but the woman who brings emotional steadiness becomes different. She becomes memorable. She becomes the place a man mentally returns to when life becomes heavy. And here is the deeper truth. People become attached to what makes them feel better about life. If your presence consistently makes someone feel calm, respected, understood, and emotionally safe, your value quietly grows in their heart over time. Not because you forced it, but because your energy becomes associated with comfort, clarity, and warmth. In a loud world, quiet strength stands out. In a stressful life, peace feels precious. And when a woman becomes a source of sincere peace, not by pretending, but by becoming deeply grounded in herself, she unlocks a kind of attraction that goes far beyond surface beauty. She becomes the rare kind of presence that does not simply excite the heart for a moment. She becomes the kind of presence the heart does not easily want to live without. One of the deepest truths about human connection is this: people naturally move closer to those who make them feel seen for who they truly are, not just on the surface, but in the quiet parts of themselves that often go unnoticed. And for many men, one of those quiet parts is the strength they carry every single day without applause, without recognition, and often without anyone fully understanding the weight on their shoulders. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is waking up tired and still showing up. Sometimes it is carrying responsibility without complaint. Sometimes it is staying calm under pressure, protecting the people he loves, or continuing forward even when doubt, fear, or exhaustion live quietly in his heart. Many men carry burdens in silence because that is what life has taught them to do. They keep moving, keep building, keep holding themselves together even when nobody stops to notice the discipline, sacrifice, and emotional resilience behind that strength. And this is where a woman's words can become incredibly powerful when she sincerely recognizes what others overlook: his consistency, his character, his calm strength, his quiet determination. She touches something deep inside him, not his ego, but his spirit. A simple, honest expression like, "I admire how steady you are," or "I respect how you handle difficult things with strength," can mean far more than empty praise. Why? Because genuine respect feels rare. It tells him he is not invisible. It tells him that who he is, not just what he has, matters. It tells him that someone notices the man behind the effort. And when a man feels deeply respected, something powerful happens. He becomes emotionally invested. He naturally wants to give more, show more, and become even stronger in the presence of the woman who truly sees him. This is not manipulation. It is human nature. People rise in the presence of sincere belief. But there is an important difference between admiration and flattery. Flattery is shallow and feels performative. Real admiration is specific, honest, and rooted in truth. It notices character, not just image. It speaks to values, not vanity. It recognizes integrity, patience, courage, and quiet leadership. And that kind of recognition stays in the heart because it touches identity. In relationships, many people focus only on what they want to receive: attention, affection, validation. But powerful connection is often built when you understand what meaningful recognition gives another person. A woman who knows how to genuinely appreciate a man's strength while still holding her own dignity and confidence creates emotional warmth that feels rare in today's world. She becomes more than attractive, she becomes inspiring. And the woman who inspires strength, honors character, and speaks life into the quiet battles a man carries often becomes the woman he associates with purpose, admiration, and a feeling he does not easily find anywhere else. One of the deepest human needs in any connection is the feeling of being accepted without having to perform. Most people walk through life wearing emotional masks. They act stronger than they feel, happier than they are, and more composed than they sometimes feel inside. Especially men, who are often taught from a young age that vulnerability is weakness, learn to hide their softer emotions behind confidence, silence, or distraction. They become skilled at managing the outside world, but inside, many of them quietly long for a space where they can simply be real, not judged, not corrected, not analyzed, just understood. This is where emotional safety becomes one of the most powerful forces in attraction and connection. When a woman creates an environment where a man feels he does not need to pretend, where he can speak openly, express thoughts without fear, and show his imperfect side without losing respect, something deeply meaningful begins to grow. He starts to relax emotionally. He starts to open up more naturally, and slowly, he begins to associate her presence with relief, honesty, and trust. A simple expression like, "I feel like I can be myself around you," carries more emotional weight than many people realize. Because what it truly means is, "I don't feel judged with you. I don't feel like I have to hide who I am." That feeling is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable in the human heart. But emotional safety is not about agreeing with everything or losing personal boundaries. It is not about becoming silent or avoiding honesty. In fact, real emotional safety is built on balance, where truth can exist without fear, and where differences can be expressed without conflict turning into emotional damage. It is about listening with presence instead of rushing to correct. It is about responding with calmness instead of reaction. It is about creating a tone where communication feels like understanding, not competition. When a man experiences that kind of space, he does not just feel comfortable, he feels emotionally grounded. And people naturally gravitate toward the places where they feel grounded. Over time, this kind of connection builds something deeper than attraction. It builds trust. And trust is what turns temporary interest into long-term emotional attachment. Many women focus on trying to stand out through appearance or attention, but emotional safety is what truly makes someone unforgettable. Because anyone can be attractive for a moment, but very few people can make someone feel fully accepted in their most unguarded state. And when a woman becomes that rare presence, calm, understanding, emotionally steady, and non-judgmental, she is no longer just part of a man's life. She becomes a space he returns to in his mind when the world feels heavy. A space where he feels he does not need to be anyone else but himself. At the deepest level of human connection, people are not just drawn to those who make them feel good in the moment. They are drawn to those who make them feel like they are becoming better versions of themselves. Every person carries an unspoken desire to grow, to evolve, to feel proud of who they are becoming. And when a woman unknowingly becomes a source of that kind of inspiration in a man's life, the connection shifts into something much more meaningful than simple attraction. It becomes emotional direction. It becomes purpose mixed with presence. Many men move through life carrying ambition, responsibility, and quiet pressure to improve themselves. But what often fuels their emotional attachment is not just success or admiration. It is how they feel about themselves in the presence of a certain woman. When she says or expresses something like, "I like who I become when I'm around you," or "You bring out a better side of me," it creates a powerful emotional reflection. Because deep down, every man wants to feel like his presence adds value, not confusion or insecurity. He wants to feel like he is not just occupying space in someone's life, but actually improving it in a meaningful way. That feeling creates emotional importance. But this is not about putting a man on a pedestal or losing individuality. It is about recognizing and appreciating the positive influence someone brings into your emotional world. When done with sincerity, it makes a man feel significant in a healthy, grounded way. And significance is something people naturally become attached to. However, the deeper layer of this point is not just about making him feel important. It is about inspiring growth in a subtle, natural way. A woman who carries her own direction, confidence, self-respect, and emotional stability naturally encourages the same in the person she connects with. She does not push, force, or demand change. Instead, her presence quietly reflects what growth looks like. Her discipline encourages discipline. Her emotional balance encourages calmness. Her self-worth encourages respect. This is why inspiration in relationships is never loud. It is felt through consistency, character, and energy. When a man feels that being around a woman helps him think clearer, act better, and feel more aligned with his own values, a strong emotional bond begins to form. Because people tend to stay where they feel they are evolving, not just existing. Over time, this creates a sense of emotional partnership rather than just attraction. He does not just see her as someone he likes, he sees her as someone who has become part of his personal growth journey. And when someone becomes linked to your growth, your mindset, and your better decisions, they naturally take a deeper place in your emotional world. That is why this kind of influence is so powerful. It is not about control or effort. It is about being the kind of woman whose presence quietly inspires strength, clarity, and improvement without ever having to demand it. At the highest level of emotional connection, the most powerful feeling you can create in someone is not dependence. It is choice. Because need feels heavy, but choice feels free. Need says, "I cannot live without you," while choice says, "I want you in my life because I truly value you." And in human psychology, value becomes strongest when it is given freely, not demanded. Many relationships lose their depth when one person begins to feel emotionally needed in a way that creates pressure instead of peace. But something completely different happens when a woman carries her own identity, her own direction, and her own emotional stability, and still chooses to be present in someone's life from a place of genuine value. not emotional emptiness. That is where real attraction becomes deeper and more respectful. When a woman communicates directly or indirectly, "I am whole on my own, but I choose you because you matter to me," it creates a very different kind of emotional impact. It is not desperation. It is not attachment from lack. It is intentional presence. And intentional presence is rare. It tells a man that he is not filling a void, but becoming part of something already complete. That feeling creates respect, not pressure, admiration, not obligation, and this is where emotional connection becomes more stable and long-lasting. Because when someone feels chosen rather than needed, they naturally value the connection more deeply. They do not feel trapped, they feel appreciated. But this energy only works when it is real. It cannot be faked through words alone. It comes from how a woman carries herself in daily life, how she respects her own time, how she maintains her emotional balance, how she does not lose herself in trying to hold on to someone. A woman who is grounded in her own life does not chase validation. She does not bend her identity to keep someone interested. Instead, she brings her full self into a connection and allows it to grow naturally. And that authenticity creates attraction that feels calm, not chaotic, strong, not dependent. Another important part of this idea is emotional independence. It does not mean being distant or cold. It means having a life that is already meaningful before someone enters it. It means having self-respect that does not collapse when attention changes. When a man sees that a woman's presence in his life is a choice she makes, not a necessity she depends on, he begins to feel something powerful, appreciation mixed with respect. Because people value what does not cling, they value what does not lose itself in fear, they value what remains steady even when emotions fluctuate. And over time, this creates a deeper form of attraction, one that is not based on chasing or proving, but on mutual respect and emotional clarity. In the end, being a choice is not about playing hard to get or creating distance. It is about being complete within yourself, so that when you do choose someone, it feels meaningful, grounded, and real. And that kind of presence is what stays in someone's mind long after the moment has passed. Not because they needed you, but because you were chosen with intention, confidence, and quiet strength. At the end of the day, real connection has nothing to do with perfect words or trying to impress someone into staying. It is built in the quiet space where honesty meets emotional awareness, where confidence meets softness, and where two people feel understood without having to over-explain themselves. If you take anything from this, let it be this simple truth. People don't stay where they are chased, they stay where they feel valued, calm, and emotionally connected in a natural way. When a woman learns how to speak from that place, without pressure, without games, and without losing herself, she doesn't just become attractive for a moment, she becomes memorable in a deeper way. But remember, this is never about changing who you are to fit someone else's world. It is about becoming more grounded in your own, so that whatever connection you choose feels real, balanced, and meaningful. If this message made you think differently about love, attraction, or emotional connection, take a second and reflect on it, because awareness is where real change begins. And if you want more content like this, stay connected, because we go deeper into the psychology of relationships, emotional strength, and the hidden dynamics most people never talk about. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And most importantly, remember this: the strongest kind of love is never forced. It is felt, chosen, and built on mutual respect and emotional peace.